And the next reason is political causes. You must have heard of suzerainty or the doctrine of lapse and annexation and subsidiary alliances. All these were like policies and strategies which allowed these British provinces to expand their territory. Even though the princely states agreed for this agreement, they weren't agreed for at first. It was a war was fought between them, and then they came into an agreement. So through all these wars, the princely states or these princes and these noblemen were reduced to these actions of these policies. So we'll discuss in detail. So all these policies are, first one is subsidiary alliances. Subsidiary alliance is a policy in which the East India Company, they give in sort of like an extension of help, but they're not actually help. The East India Company, they say that, we'll help you, we'll protect your territory, we'll maintain a series of army in your territory in a way in which we can protect you from the invasion of outside princes or outside princely states. This wasn't agreed upon at first. That means all these princely states, they came into this agreement after the war was fought between them. So subsidiary alliance is in which the government, the princely state, has to pay a monthly amount to the government for the protection, and the army maintained in the territory has to be looked after. So this was a subsidiary alliance. However, the subsidiary alliances and the other policies allowed these princely states and these princes to have an internal autonomy within them. So these subsidiary alliances kind of overlaps with other policies too, which is effective control and suzerainty. All these are almost equal. Effective control is actually indirect intervention or indirect influence over the territories. Even though the East India Company wouldn't have direct control over the territories, they had an influence upon the princes, and these princes would have an effect on the territory. So they had an indirect influence over the territory. And the next policy was doctrine of lapse and misgovernance. These two were kind of like unpopular among those periods. Doctrine of lapse, if you remember, Jhansi Rani had a problem with doctrine of lapse. According to doctrine of lapse, suppose a king and a queen, they don't have a successor, probably they don't have a children after them. So what do? Since they are not survived by a successor, they adopt a child as a successor. But according to the doctrine of lapse policy, if you don't have a legal or a biological son or a daughter, the land or the territory could be seized and annexed by the British government. So this was a serious problem, especially during Rani Lakshmi Bai's period. She didn't have a legal heir or a legal successor. She had an adopted son, and the Britishers or the East India Company didn't allow that, and they annexed her land. And according to the misconduct or the pretext of misgovernance is that, suppose the Britishers say that, okay, this territory or this provinces aren't rightly taken care of by the princes, so do one thing, we look after them. You prince, will give you a pension or a monthly remuneration, you stay quiet, and we look after into the administrative or the civic polities and the revenue policies of that place. So one of the unpopular case was the Awadh. Awadh during those periods was very prosperous and prominent. Awadh was a very culturally rich, and they had a rich heritage and tradition. But the Britishers claimed that the authority figure or the prince, they weren't looking after the administration of the Awadh properly. So we'll do one thing, we as East India Company will take after or look after the state. So in that way, the Prince of Awadh was removed, and the East India Company imposed their supremacy over Awadh. So these are the policies which led to a discontent among the minds of these people, because they had a love towards their country. Or for example, I have a love towards my state. I belong to Kerala. Suppose if Kerala is overpowered by a different nation or a different state, I'll have a sort of enmity towards them. For me as a person, I'll be like, I am a Malayali, and why is my place taken over by someone else? So this was an issue which prevailed in the minds of everyone during those period. For them, they couldn't understand or consider and accept the fact that their land is being seized or annexed by the East India Company. So sure, there is enmity between the kings and the rulers. So there was also discontent among the civilians and the normal people. So this was the political causes, and one of the reason is that Prince Fakhruddin, a successor of Mughal Empire, he had an agreement with the British Empire That is, after the death of Fakhruddin, he promised that the Mughal Empire and the Mughal palace could be taken over by the East India Company. However, I guess or presume it to be a sort of like a coercion from the Britishers side. But what happened was that the successor or the person or the prince after the Fakhruddin's death, he was denied of the title. So what led to all these things is that all these policies led to the collapse of rulers and princely states of India. And the next reason is that administrative causes. I really hope that you remember the 1773 Act, that is a regulating act which was imposed by the British government over the East India Company. If you remember, regulating act was that act or the first act imposed by the British government to have a regulation of control of the affairs of the East India Company. This was passed because there were lots of complaints against the East India Company, and the major one was that the East India Company went into debt, which was highly unbelievable because India during those periods was very prosperous and rich, and the Queen has granted the Royal Charter, which is a monopoly rights over the trade in India. So they couldn't understand because the East India Company, they didn't have much of a competition here in India. So how come they went into debt? So the reason after investigation was that the officials, they were very corrupted. So instead of the company becoming more developed and prosperous, these officials ended up being more richer. So that was because they were corrupted. So that was the first reason. And nepotism, yes, there were lots of racial overtones over here. The Indians were denied of many higher positions, no matter what education background that person was from. They were denied of so many opportunities also. And nepotism is when these Britishers, they appoint all these families, relatives, friends and people that they know of. So basically all these Britishers are the superior, or only they held the bigger post and bigger sections of it. So that was the second reason. And the third reason is absentee sovereignty. India, that we all know, is land to many invaders. Many invaders came and plundered, settled and conquered over here. Even the Mughal Empire, they came here, they conquered us and they settled here. The greatest Mughal emperor like Akbar, he accommodated lots of customs and traditions in his ideas. So from what we can find from our past history is that all the people, all the conquerors who came here, they settled over here, except for the Britishers. They were ruling us from a land which is like thousands and thousands of kilometers away from here, like the Queen of the Britain during those period. She said that she is the empress, or she said that she is the empress of India, and all the lands or the territories belong to the government of Britain. But even then, they weren't ruling us. They weren't very much concerned about our well-beings. A proper ruler or a good ruler is someone who is who looks after to everyone's need. But these rulers or this queen or whoever these people are, the British government, they didn't look into the needs of every civilians or every common people's problem. So this was the main issue. So these people of the Indians, they understood in the inside was that these Britishers, they have come over here so that they can exploit us all economically, plunder and loot so much of resources from here and go back home, and then again come back with the finished products and even loot us even more and exploit us to a great extent. So this was the idea they had. The Sepoy Mutiny or the Mutiny of 1857, the underlying reason or the underlying effect or the cause was that the emotional sentiments or the sentiments was hurt so much by these Britishers, and the interests were conflicted by these Britishers and the Indians. So this was more like an emotional issue rather than a political issue. And the fourth reason is socio-religious reason. India is land to lots of customs, traditions and religion. The most prominent religion during those periods was Hinduism and Muslim. So all these people felt was that their religion was in grave danger, especially due to these interventions and interferences. These Britishers interfered so much in their religious customs and traditions, especially abolishing of sati and widow remarriage support, and also the Britishers, they supported the women empowerment and women education. So for them, for these people, even though they are social evils, for them they couldn't accept this fact that they're interfering into their personal or these traditional customs. And to add to the existing mysteries of these Indians, there were lots of Christian missionaries present during those periods, like British missionaries came from Britain so that they can have converted Christians over here. So all these things were looked upon as okay, they are here so that they can torture us and then convert us into a different religion. And one of these reasons was that these mosques and temples were taxed. Before these Britishers, before these advent of Britain, these temples and mosques weren't taxed. So what the idea that they got was that, okay, they are not pro-religion, they are not pro-secular. For them, their religion is supreme. They are not appreciating or understanding or acknowledging our religion and our sentiments. So what they do, they are doing is they are making lots of problems within our religion and trying to convert so many people from our religion to their religion. So that is the reason why they started imposing all these taxes on these temples and mosques. But I think the idea that the East India Company had was that these temples and mosques will have lots of revenue, like the arms, like these arms collected from these mosques and temples. So these East India companies must have thought that the greatest revenue for them was tax collection. So if we impose lots of tax restrictions on these temples, we can garner lots of profit from it. So I think this was the major idea rather than conversion. So all these problems added to the existing miseries of the Indians. Also, the greatest problem was the Religious Disabilities Act of 1856. This means was that suppose a Hindu man, his son got converted to a different religion, which is Christianity, because for them the alien religion was Christianity. And the Hindu man, suppose he say that, okay fine, I'm abandoning my son, he wouldn't have any rights on my property or my land or my wealth. But according to the Religious Disability Act of 1856, a son or a child have a right to all these properties irrespective of what religion that he's being converted to. So all these problems, they posed a serious problems or a serious threat to these emotional or these religious sentiments of these people. And the last and final reason was the discontent among the sepoys. The major reason or what triggered this mutiny was the discontent among the sepoys. All these reasons are the cumulative effect or the subsequent results of it, subsequent reasons of it, and all the other reasons or all the other causes were the cumulative or the subsequent causes of it. The major reason that triggered this greatest mutiny of all kind was the sepoys. For them, one thing's for sure is that all these reasons or all these causes are kind of overlapping with each other. Like these peasants, I told you, like the economic reasons, the peasants are actually, so these peasants, since they lost their job, which is the land they had, which is the land they cultivated, they lost the land, they didn't have any means of livelihood. So what did they do? They came and joined these army. And also when the all these territories or the princely states were annexed by the British government, the army maintained by the princely state was taken over by the British. So they became the sepoys. So in many cases, all these people, all these Indians, that is the already emotionally hurt sentiments Indians, they were made sepoys of the East India Company. So this is something that we have to understand. These sepoys aren't just basic people. These people were already emotionally tortured by these East India Company. And they were highly religious people. They were highly religious Hindus and Muslims during those period. And one of the first or the primary reason was that, which triggered the mutiny, was that the Royal Enfield, that is the cartridges, has to be bitten off before being loaded into the gun. So what they understood, or the rumors that was prevalent, was that these cartridges was greased with pig and cow fat. So for Hindus this was a sin sort of, because for them the cow is their mother, the goddess or the Gomada. And for Muslim, it's haram to use anything related to pig. So it kind of affected or drastically hurt the sentiments of both Hindus and Muslims. So they have to bite it off. That means they have to sin in order to load their guns. So this was the reason which triggered. And there are even reasons before that, which is we're going to discuss one by one. First one is proselytizing, which we have discussed earlier, the socio-religious reason. All these people had a feeling that these religious missionaries, all these Jesuit people, they are here so that they can convert us. especially considering the fact that sepoys weren't allowed to carry, or sepoys weren't allowed to have any sorts of religious or secular or any sorts of religious or caste marks on their body, like tilak for Hindus, and arms, and some kind of chains for Muslims. So these weren't allowed for sepoys. So they felt sort of like an intrusion into their religion, and all these missionaries, they were present everywhere. So they thought, okay, fine, what they're doing is that they're making us commit a grave sin and then having us converted to the religion. So it was all emotional reasons that led to the uprisal. And the next reason was that for Hindus, crossing seas means losing of one's caste, especially for the highest caste people. For them, they are not allowed or supposed to cross the seas. But due to the new act, which is General Service Enlistment Act of 1856, all the sepoys are entitled, or all the sepoys are ordered to service any parts of the nation which is inland or to the foreign nation, irrespective of where they are, they're supposed to give their service. So because of this act, these sepoys are being compelled to do the service. And the next reason is that even though they had a foreign service, they weren't given special allowances for that. So even that was sort of seen as a hurt in the sentiments. And then that we have discussed, drastic discrimination, racial overtones, and outright discrimination, that is that the sepoys, they were promoted upon a specific rank. All these high official posts were taken over by the British. And even among the sepoys, suppose there are 5 Indian sepoys and there are 2 British sepoys. British sepoys were paid higher than the Indian sepoys. So for them, these are like drastic discrimination among inside the cantonments. And at the end, like the last nail was the Enfield rifle, the introduction of the rifle. And the Britishers also, they didn't do anything to elevate their fears. And then finally on February 26th, many sepoys or many cantonment people, they started resisting this thing. They started refusing the order of using this rifle. So what started as a disobedience, it eclipsed drastically into a severe mutiny. And since the general people and the civilians, these peasants, these farmers, these zamindars, princely state, or these princes had a general discontent amongst them, so they joined the sepoys and they made the sepoy mutiny a successful mutiny. But however, at the end, these sepoys or these mutiny was overpowered by the English East India Company. And what the effect that happened afterwards was that the East India Company was overthrown, and the British Queen, she proclaimed herself to be the Empress of India. That is, she said that now onwards the British government or the Queen will look after the administrative or the purposes directly rather than using the East India Company. So this was a major causes or the reasons that led to the uprisal or the revolt of 1857. Basically, this was actually a contradiction between the foreigners and the natives' interests. One thing's for sure, these were like cumulative causes and significant reasons which resulted in the Sepoy Mutiny of 1857. This is an important part or the important segment of your modern history, because from here only onwards we can say that the Indian struggle for freedom started. So I really hope that you understood the lessons, and if you have any doubts or queries regarding this, do watch the videos and repeat, or watch it like 3 or 4 times. I'm sure that you'll get the concepts correct. And then you have and in spite of that you have doubts, do leave that in the comments below. I'll reply to you as soon as possible. So thank you so much for listening to me and watching this video. Thank you.